When we talk about dirt, pollution, and lack of sanitation, India often comes to mind. After all, images of streets overflowing with garbage, polluted rivers, and precarious sanitary conditions are widely circulated. But what if I told you that there is a country in an even worse situation? Yes, worse than India. Few people talk about it, but Bangladesh ranks at the top of the list of the world's most polluted countries, facing an alarming sanitation crisis that affects millions of people every day. Streets covered in garbage, rivers turned into open-air sewers, air contaminated with toxic particles. This is the reality of Bangladesh, a country that, despite rapid economic growth, still suffers from a chaotic sanitation system and inadequate infrastructure. But how can a country grow economically while sinking into so much pollution? Why is the situation there even worse than in India? And is there any solution to this problem? Today, we will dive into this issue and reveal facts that few people know. We will explore the causes, impacts, and often failed attempts to solve this crisis. By the end, you will understand why Bangladesh carries the title of one of the dirtiest countries in the world and what would need to happen to change this reality. Get ready, because what you are about to discover may be even more shocking than you imagine. Bangladesh is a country of extreme contrasts. On one hand, its economy has been growing rapidly, driven by the textile sector and cheap labor. On the other, this growth has not translated into significant improvements in sanitation infrastructure. Poverty still plagues a large part of the population, and lack of access to basic services like clean water and treated sewage is a daily reality. The result? Streets overflowing with garbage, rivers turned into open sewers, and a quality of life compromised by filth. But why does a rapidly growing country still face such basic problems? The answer lies in the unequal distribution of wealth and the absence of solid investments in infrastructure. The industrial sector thrives while public sanitation takes a back seat. Multinational companies take advantage of Bangladesh's cheap labor but contribute little to the country's sustainable development. As a result, while factories export tons of clothing worldwide, the workers themselves live in precarious conditions, surrounded by waste and contaminated water. This scenario creates a devastating ripple effect. Pollution and lack of sanitation impact public health, increasing cases of infectious diseases and reducing life expectancy. The government tries to implement improvement projects, but faces challenges such as corruption, lack of oversight, and uncontrolled urbanization. Economic growth without sustainable infrastructure becomes more of a problem than a solution. But would money alone solve this crisis? Or are there other factors making Bangladesh's situation even worse? If there is one thing that defines Bangladesh's infrastructure, it is chaos. The country suffers from rapid and unplanned urbanization, where cities grow without the necessary infrastructure to support millions of inhabitants. Dhaka, the capital, is a clear example. Streets clogged with garbage, rivers polluted by industrial waste, and a sewage system insufficient to meet the population's demand. Waste collection is faulty, and many areas lack basic sanitation, forcing residents to live with open sewage. The problem worsens with the lack of proper treatment for sewage and industrial waste. The textile factories, which drive the country's economy, dump tons of chemicals directly into rivers, contaminating the water and making it unsafe for consumption. The Baraganga River, for instance, which was once one of the country's most important, is now a toxic waste dump. Moreover, sanitary landfills are practically non-existent, leading the population to dispose of waste irregularly, contributing to disease outbreaks and aggravating the environmental crisis. The impact of this precariousness goes beyond aesthetics or visual discomfort. The lack of adequate infrastructure has direct consequences on public health and the economy. Diseases related to contaminated water, such as cholera and hepatitis, are frequent, overloading an already fragile healthcare system. Additionally, tours, which could be a significant source of income for the countries, hindered by the image of dirt and neglect. But would simply improving infrastructure solve the problem? Or are cultural and political issues also contributing to this reality?
नहीं वो निकल गया वो कोई पार्किंग नो पार्किंग मैं तो उसको लेकर जाए ऐसा तो चलेगा ही नहीं तो कारण जिस वक्त नहीं मेरे बात तो सुनिएगा अच्छा नहीं उसके बाद आप बोलेगा तो ले लूंगा पहले आप हां नहीं है सर आप प्लेट मिल जाएगा अंकल का मार्क्स का पैसा दीजिए लो 5 प्लेट मिल तो है नहीं दो प्लेट ले लीजिए भाई नाम है
If there is one factor that could transform Bangladesh and remove it from the list of the world's dirtiest countries, it would be efficient governance. Unfortunately, the reality is quite different. The country faces a massive public management crisis, where sanitation policies are weak, poorly implemented, and often shelved before they even take effect. Corruption infiltrates the sectors responsible for infrastructure, diverting resources that should be used to improve waste collection, expand sewage treatment, and ensure access to clean water. Without strict oversight, any attempt at improvement is hindered by inefficiency and lack of political commitment. The few sanitation projects that emerge encounter execution barriers. One example is the plan to improve drinking water quality in Dhaka, which was supposed to reduce contamination and increase the supply of clean water. Despite government promises, much of the population still depends on polluted water sources. Additionally, the lack of a robust national waste management policy means that tons of garbage are dumped daily in improper locations, exacerbating environmental degradation. The result? A vicious cycle where the lack of effective public policies perpetuates the sanitation crisis. The weak governance of Bangladesh does not only impact urban cleanliness, but also public health and citizens' quality of life. While countries like Singapore and Japan have transformed their cities into cleanliness benchmarks through strict laws and efficient oversight, Bangladesh still struggles to implement basic measures. But would political changes alone solve this problem? Or do culture and people's habits also play a significant role in this reality? Now that you know the harsh reality of Bangladesh, it is impossible to ignore the severity of the situation. The country that surpasses India in pollution and sanitation precariousness did not reach this point by chance. It is the result of a vicious cycle of lack of infrastructure, inefficient governance, and cultural habits that perpetuate the crisis. But does this story have to end this way? Is Bangladesh doomed to be one of the dirtiest countries in the world forever? The answer depends on several factors, but one thing is certain. Without a drastic change, both from the government and the population, this scenario will not improve. Effective public policies, real investments in sanitation, and, most importantly, a collective effort to change people's mindset are essential to reversing this situation. India has already shown that it is possible to transform a country mired in sanitation problems. So why can't Bangladesh follow the same path? And what do you think about this reality? How do you believe a country can break out of a cycle of pollution and precariousness? If this content has made you see this problem in a new way, leave your comment and share this video with more people. And of course, if you want to keep learning about the world's biggest challenges and possible solutions, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. See you in the next video. Nah.